Welcome back to the Sandy Trail. We are finally in the last part of the review for episode 1 of season 3 of Sanditon. We are still at the birthday party of Georgiana. We have like the last 10-11 minutes of this episode. We should get started. Here comes Georgiana and Lord Monroe. What beautiful scenery, the proud mom moment, of course. Georgiana's really happy tonight. Charlotte has no idea. She's like, oh, who is this guy? Like, is this getting real? Like, you never told me. There you go, Georgiana. What the word? She is thriving.
Forgive me, Your Grace. I didn't know you and Georgiana were so well acquainted.
Oh. Well, we haven't known each other for long, but our rapport was instantaneous.
Charlotte was very suspicious, in a good way. She's like, Georgiana never told me anything about this guy, or doesn't tell me much about this guy, and this is a grand, big party, and she came in, walking in with the particular guy, so she was intrigued. She asked him properly, like, okay, how do you two know each other? Are you guys like a real deal? Like, are you guys a couple? And you see Ralph looking over to this conversation. And it's nice though that you can tell like who's sitting at Georgiana's table. Of course, Charlotte and her +1, Ralph, is at the table, and Lord Monroe is right next to her, and you will get to see her other good friend Arthur on the other side of her. The little details, you know, like who get to sit at the birthday girl table at the party.
Georgiana, a word. I cannot see you yield to another fortune hunter. I'm told he's quite notorious, and I'm told that his father has gambled away their entire fortune.
After Otis and Lockhart, and she's at that legal age where she claimed 100% control over the fortune from her dad, a lot of guys are running to her like bees, right? So it's very understandable that Arthur being very protective of Georgiana, but it's getting a little bit annoying, and he has no idea that this friendly interaction between Lord Monroe and Georgiana pretend they're just role-playing along at the party. Also, Arthur mentioned about Harry and Lydia's father gambled away all their money, and so Arthur have that valid excuse to tell Georgiana to not to be with Harry because he had no money, and they moved to Sanditon to find money. So that's the primary reason the family moved from Bath, England to Sanditon, and we never got to see the actual face, the actual person of Harry and Lydia's father. That's a little spoiler alert. So we get to hear from Arthur that it's actually because they lost money, and the mom is rushing her kids, both of her kids, to get married so they can get some money from both marriages.
I know what I'm doing. History will not repeat itself. Tonight is perfect. You've surpassed yourself.
Arthur respectfully stepped aside. He trusts Georgiana. He does trust her instinct. He just doesn't want her to have that wrong decision making once again when it comes to guys, like which guy to trust, which guy to not to trust, especially after those two failed relationships with Otis and Lockhart.
Charlotte tells me you have known each other since childhood.
I have known and loved her my whole life, my lady. Although, I confess, she seems quite a different person here in Sanditon.
He made an interesting statement about Charlotte herself, and I was thinking, is this the right place and time to kind of like talk trash about your girlfriend to a very good friend of hers?
One I hardly recognize.
For better or worse?
It is not for me to say.
I can understand, like, Ralph known Charlotte for his whole life, and he just see this very different side of her when she's in Sanditon. And it does show to us that Sanditon changed Charlotte. In a good way, mostly, I would say. She grew, she learned a lot, she improved herself in some way. She experienced a lot of new things that she wouldn't have learned or saw or experienced in Wellington. Sanditon broadened her horizon in so many ways. So Ralph is freaking out a little bit, and he's just like, he not wait to bring her back home to Wellington. And Lady Susan, she always seen this side of Charlotte in Sanditon, like in this lifestyle, and she never saw Charlotte back home in her hometown in Wellington. So Lady Susan only knows the Sanditon version of Charlotte, and Ralph only knows very well of the Wellington version of Charlotte. And Charlotte's like, okay, you guys talking about me? And Lady Susan, she's just trying to keep herself composed, like in a respectful way. She starts to think again. She's like, okay, so this Ralph guy, they know each other for so long since birth, and their destinies are already written, and the parents are forcing them to get married to each other. But I saw this other guy, Mr. Heybourne, walk in earlier, and there's just this attraction between him and Charlotte. So Lady Susan's just like, matching the puzzle at the same time.
Oh, you have my sympathy, Lady Denham. What an indignity. Have we any idea who this elusive gentleman is?
Well, whoever he is, he's clearly a man of ill breeding and atrocious manners.
Lady Denham has no idea that Mr. Price will be walking into the room, going to his seat that is between Lady Denham and Lady Monroe.
Keep your eyes fixed on Mr. C in case he should glance over. But if he does, look away at once.
Lydia, she is following the steps of her mom and obeying her tips and commands on how to get the attention from Mr. Colburn. We will get to see that a little bit more later on throughout the party. Like I said before, I kind of like this storyline just because it might make Charlotte a little bit jealous that another woman is contending for Mr. Colburn's attention.
You spotted any eligible suitors yet?
It is too early to tell. And you, Uncle?
Mr. Colburn, before the party, he was like, okay, we're going because you already accepted the invitation. You want to find a single man. But deep down, like, he wanted to go to the party on his own will because he wanted to see Charlotte and try to make it right with her. So he playing this little game with Augusta, like, oh, have you found a man that you may be interested in? And she looked over to Edward, and I'm like, no, like, don't fall for him. And then she changed the topic and put it back on her uncle and asked him if he found any pretty lady that he might be interested in. Augusta already knows the answer is Charlotte. Alright, he looked down, he looked up, he already knew where Charlotte was sitting, and he looked over to her, and she just, like, looked up and saw him, and she's like, oop. And then he got that message from her, that indirect message, like, I shouldn't be looking at her. Like, okay, that's my bad. Like, what did I do? Like, he thought that glance to each other would be a good thing, but she didn't like that moment. So if I were him, I would be like, okay, if that guy sitting next to her, like, is he her boyfriend? Maybe I shouldn't be crossing the line, technically. But he is trying to get her attention, trying to let her know, like, hey, like, we should finish our conversation from earlier. He still have some words to say to her. Okay, so the pastor is talking to Edward, And Ed was like hating the program that he was in with his aunt, talking that spiritual perspective. And now the doctor, he's talking about from the science perspective with the pastor's sister. And she's very, very interested in Dr. Fuchs. And Mr. Hinken will not like this at all. Oh yeah, he stepped into the conversation. Oops.
Oh, about time. We'd given you up for dead.
As I live and breathe, Louisa Brereton.
Lady Denham to you.
It happened. Mr. Price finally arrived to the party, and then she realized, she's like, oh no, you are not sitting next to me. And Mr. Price was happy to see her, which is totally different reaction from hers.
I told you all would be well. They're getting along famously.
You expect me to believe that this was coincidence?
Funny, Mary and Tom are watching them, and they're thinking that this is a good sign that they are having this conversation with one another. But in reality, Lady Denham doesn't like talking to Mr. Price at this very moment. She did not expect it at all. She knows better. She's like, something is up. And Mr. Price like, no, it's all about faith. Like, this is like a lucky chance for us to be sitting next to each other tonight.
I swear upon my life, had I known you were Lady Denham, I should not have come within 100 miles.
Poppycock.
I don't know about that, because I feel like he was happy to see her. Like, he was happier to see her than she was happy to see him, you know what I mean? We would get to see their relationship a little bit more in season 3, but for now she is very annoyed. And my first impression when this scene happened, when I watched this scene for the first time, I was like, was he the guy that Lady Denham told Esther about? Remember in season 2, I forget what episode, but Lady Denham had this really nice personal conversation with Esther. It was a lovely aunt-niece conversation talking about men in general, romance, love life, the first love, and she mentioned about the guy that she really liked. She really wanted to be with him, but he chose a different woman because she had more money. And that broke Lady Denham's heart. So it's kind of like matching the puzzle if this guy was the one that you were talking about in season 2 with Esther. Let me know if you thought of that, or maybe it's a different guy. I forgot if she mentioned the name in season 2 when she was talking to Esther about him. But that was my first thought. I'm like, wait, is this a guy that she always wanted to be with, but he broke her heart?
Miss Colburn, it is long past your bedtime, is it not?
How can I sleep, Mrs. Wheatley, knowing they may be dancing together right now?
I love this scene too. Again, like sometimes they show in these type of scenes where you just don't expect and it just makes you giddy and excited for what's to come.
It'll give you something to dream about.
But what if Augustus is right and they do fall in love? Miss Hayward will be my mother.
Hearing Leonora say Miss Hayward will be my mother, like he'll be my future mom down the road, that's lovely to say, lovely to hear from her, because it's so important to consider her approval, her opinion on the woman that Mr. Heybourne will marry in the future if he is interested to go down that path.
Imagine that.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we?
It shows that Leonora already approved Charlotte to be her new mom if her dad gets to marry her in the near future. And Mrs. Whitley, she approves it as well. She already knew that there's something special between Charlotte and Alexander. I love the looks, the glances between these two throughout the party. The first time I watched it, I was freaking out in the good way because I was like, oh my goodness, like the intensity between these two is just like another level. It's just like what happened like between season 2 and season 3. It's just like there's a whole new world between these two in a good way. Like it's just like that moment of just like, oh, like I really want them to be together like right now, but it hasn't happened yet. That feeling, that anticipation. Mr. Heybourne, he is not giving up. I love his confidence. Especially in the scene, he's like, okay, the night is about to end. Like, let me go again. Like, let me go up to her one more time and just say the words like, I want you back in my life and in Augusta and Leonora life as a governess, if possible.
Miss Hayward, when I heard that you had returned to Sanditon, I could only assume that you would wish to keep your distance.
Point number 1, it is true. I mean, I think Charlotte would have distanced away from him because she does have Ralph with her this time around out of respect. Like, she doesn't want to be intimate with Mr. Heybourne in front of Ralph. I'm not saying that to be against Mr. Heybourne, but, you know, in real life, like, you don't want to disrespect your partner in front of them when you're talking to an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, you know what I mean?
But when I heard that you had spoken of your departure with regret, I dared to hope that there might yet be a chance to tell you
Charlotte?
that...
Of course, the writer decided to throw in another interruption once again for the millionth time. Ralph, the time, interrupted their conversation. What he said, though, when he heard that she left Sanditon at the end of season 2 with regret. Like I said earlier in the other part of this episode review, I said that it's gonna backfire because Augusta and Leonora exaggerated a little bit about how Charlotte missed them and how Charlotte regretted the way she left Sanditon and the fact that she came back to Sanditon. And this is like before he finds out, Mr. Heybourne finds out that she is engaged to Ralph. So it's gonna backfire him right now.
Mr. Colburn, this is Mr. Starling. He and I are to be married.
Finally, the truth is out. Lady Susan made a good point earlier in the episode, like why you didn't tell Augusta, Leonora, and Mr. Whitley that you are engaged. But we all know that she didn't tell them because she didn't want to stir up some drama, especially if they tell Mr. Heybourne after the fact. I think that if Charlotte told them right there then that she is engaged, I think this scene would have happened. That might guess, but because he didn't know, Mr. Heybourne had this confidence, and unfortunately, Charlotte flashed his confidence right here in this scene. Charlotte, on the other hand, she kind of like struggled in saying the words to Alexander, telling him that she is engaged to a different man. Especially, you know, after what happened in season 2, Charlotte fell for Alexander. She fell in love with him. And telling him that she is engaged to Ralph, like, that's gonna hurt her a little bit, at least, you know what I mean?
Then I must congratulate you both.
Thank you, sir. But I interrupted.
Not at all.
His initial reaction tells us how he feels about this moment. It's hard now. It's harder now for him because now she engaged to another man. Like, how can you beat that? You know, like how can you compete against Ralph? Because Ralph got the ring on her finger. You know, it hurts. It's just like I'm losing my chance to be with Charlotte. I messed up really bad at the end of season 2 with her, and now she is engaged to Ralph. He did not expect this at all. Augusta, Leonora, and Mr. Whitley doesn't know that Charlotte is engaged too. So we can't really blame them entirely. At the same time, he wants to be respectful to Charlotte and her relationship with Ralph. But on the other hand, like, the question is, like, will he continue to fight for her? Will he give up right now at this party? Like, is this the last of the last attempts of getting her back to himself, Alexander? A little bit more about Charlotte's facial reaction when he said, "I congratulate you both." That look on the face, she's like, yeah, you're not happy about this. Like, I know you're not happy about this. Like, are you sure you're happy for us? But on the other hand, you know that thought, like, oh, he congratulating us, so does that mean that he doesn't have feeling for me anymore? You know, that question, like, you know, is it this way or the other way? But we know from the audience perspective that he saying that just to respect them, but at the same time, he really not that happy that Charlotte is engaged to Ralph.
Was merely inquiring as to whether we might persuade Miss Hayward to return as our governess. But I see now that is not to be.
She just told him a bombshell news, right? So she just like watching him, like, okay, what he gonna say now? You know, his facial reaction, his emotion. She just like being very quiet, and it kind of like Ralph took over the conversation with Mr. Heybourne. And then when Mr. Heybourne mentioned about, you know, made up the excuse about talking about the governor position, Charlotte was like, yeah, we're not going there ever again. She did say no to him at the end of season 2. She did say no to Leonora earlier in this episode when Leonora like, oh, you're back in Sanditon? Are you going to be our governess again? And Charlotte like, no. So she doesn't want to go back into the past, you know, to be the governess, and she doesn't want to get hurt again by Mr. Heybourne. It wasn't the girl's fault. It was her relationship with Alexander that convinced her that she doesn't want to go back to being the governess. And now she is engaged, right? She can't work in Sanditon. She had to go back to Willingdon. Ralph, this is the first time he meets Charlotte as boss. He already knows him, like, through the story, the version of the story that Charlotte told him. I'm still sure that he doesn't know about what happened between Alexander and Charlotte, like, personally, you know. I think he only knows the side of the story of what happened in the work relationship.
You have proven to be quite irreplaceable, Miss Hayward. Mr. Starling.
Like, that reaction, she kind of like became softer. She was like, wow, like, that's like a really nice thing for him to say, not only as her ex-boss, but as her ex-lover, ex-boyfriend. But we know that there are two definitions of that statement. It's like, you were the best governess to Augusta and Leonora. That was one side. The other side was that Mr. Heybourne will never find another woman like Charlotte. She is very unique. He fell in love with her. He's not gonna fall in love with a different woman the same way that he did with Charlotte. And something with Charlotte captivated him. And it was a love that he really loved, you know what I mean? So his heart is breaking in this scene, and it hurts him. It hurts Charlotte too, because this conversation is making her revisit her memories in the back of her mind. The memories of kissing Mr. Heybourne and the moments that she had with him when she was the governess. It's a lot to take in for Mr. Heybourne. And I know Augusta and Leonora and Mr. Whitley will be sad to hear about this as well. Charlotte, she's like monkey in the middle, you know. She knows that she's still in love with Mr. Heybourne, but at the same time, she is protecting herself and would rather go with a safer choice, who is Ralph. Ralph, he had no idea. Man, he had no idea what happened in season 2. I was questioning before the season started if there would be any more dances. That's like one of the best things of this show, the dances. We get to see one right now at Georgiana's birthday party. Arthur is still protective of Georgiana, watching over her, watching her dance with Lord Monroe's. Because of what Arthur said earlier, Georgiana sparked up that question about Harry's father during the dance. She's intrigued. She is interested to find out what happened in his family past. It sounds like there's something about Lady Monroe that Lady Susan doesn't like, but we get to see them standing next to each other at the ball, watching everyone dance. It's a little bit funny though, because both of these women are technically single. We don't know what happened to Lady Monroe's husband, if they are still married or separated at the moment. Lady Lydia looking over, keeping her eye on Mr. Heybourne. Tom and Mary are very happy at the moment, mostly Tom, just because everything is going really well for him in Sanditon compared to season 1 and 2.
Mr. Colburn is not quite the ogre you described. Aren't you glad I saved you from the life of a governess?
Immeasurably.
Ralph is not that stupid. He was honest to her. He's like, he's not that bad of a guy that you mentioned about. Charlotte, on the other hand, like, she doesn't want to tell him everything. She's like protecting her heart, her guard. She's like, yeah, like, I'm happy that you came and saved me from Sanditon and we get to go back home to London. But I don't think she is happy to return to home. I think she fell in love with Sanditon very much, and I think she would rather stay in Sanditon instead of London. But the question is, like, will she be able to support herself in Sanditon? I think it's better if she finds a man from Sanditon, living in Sanditon, to marry to, and that will help her financially to stay in Sanditon for the rest of her life.
Mr. Colburn has a very pleasing countenance, don't you think?
Highly. Although I would have thought he was a little young for you.
I love it. Lady Susan, she picks up on things like pretty quickly, and she's like, no, you are not having Mr. Heybourne for your daughter. He belonged to Charlotte. That attitude. I just love her sarcastic comment. She's like, yeah, he's too young for you. But on the other hand, she meant, like, no, he is not available for Lydia. He should be with Charlotte.
I see Mr. Colburn has returned from Bath. They say his niece, an orphan, poor thing, inherited a small fortune from her parents.
Miss Hinken, rule number 1, you should not talk about money, like, to Edward. Like, anything about money and women, don't tell him anything about those.
Scant consolation for losing.
We all know Edward is very good at role-playing and pretending to be nice and all. Now this perked up his interest even more in Augusta. They did ran into each other earlier this episode, but now this conversation with Miss Hinken motivated him to chase after Augusta. Not her, but her money.
My lady, you finally had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Price.
Pleasure is not the word I'd use. I would not trust that man to put up a tent, let alone a hotel.
So we get to hear how the rest of the night went with Lady Denham and Mr. Price. She is not happy. This is the opposite of what Tom was thinking. He was observing them and he thought that everything was going well, and now Lady Denham is telling him this. He's like, oh no, this is not going well at all.
You will not accept 1 penny of that man's money. Not so much as a halfpenny or a farthing.
She advised Tom to not work with Mr. Price. And she had that power in this partnership over the development of Sanditon and the investment, the financials of the town. So she had that power in control in that voice, and who to work with and what to do or what not to do for the town. So Tom is stuck in the middle. He seemed to be getting along with Mr. Price better now, but now he is struggling with Lady Denham and how she is not agreeing to this triangle partnership between the three. So Tom has a huge decision to make. Will he listen to Lady Denham, or will he trust his gut and go for it and partner up with Mr. Price?
Why didn't you tell me you were getting married?
I thought I had.
It is hardly the sort of thing to slip your mind.
You must join this next dance. It is a quadrille.
I'm afraid I don't know the steps.
Augusta, she finds out the truth, and Charlotte is on the hot seat now. Ralph made a good point. Like, how can you not tell them that you're engaged? Like, engagement is like happy news. Like, you should be happy and freely share that happy news to the people you know and the people you love. Her facial expression on Augusta, she's heartbroken too. She's like, oh my goodness, like, not only my uncle lost the love of his life, Augusta and Leonora lost Charlotte for good as their governess, as a friend.
Then you don't mind if I borrow Charlotte?
He doesn't know the steps of this dance, so I'm wondering if Willenden, have like their own traditional dances that might be different from the ones in Sanditon. So he is like an outcast once again in this dance. Augusta looked over to him after Charlotte left with Georgiana, and it was that look like, you don't deserve Charlotte. Like, she should be with my uncle instead. But it just showed that Charlotte is so in tune with Sanditon. Like, when Georgiana asked her to come with her for the next dance, and she knows how to do that dance and Ralph doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, Charlotte is just so into the lifestyle of Sanditon and the dances that they do in the town.
You and the Duke of Buckinghamshire? I'll explain later. You and Mr. Colburn? There's nothing to tell.
There's nothing to tell? Are you kidding me? Like, you have so much to tell to Georgiana. If she tells you about her and Harry, like, you should tell her about you and Alexander. Like, what the heck? Okay, so the relationship between Dr. Fuchs and Miss Hankins is still going strong. They will be writing letters to each other. This is actually a clever way, like, her brother doesn't need to know about the letters, you know what I mean? Alrighty, here comes the dance. Charlotte and Lydia interesting, who is competing for Mr. Colburn in a way. Augusta, oops, she's standing up, yep, next to Edward.
Most welcome.
I have been warned about you, Sir Edward. You have quite the reputation.
When you shouldn't believe everything you hear.
Of course, Edward is on the chase for Augusta and her money. She made a good point. It's good that she brought it up. She's like, I'm letting you know, if we get to know each other, like, I already know your reputation.
Well, I am perfectly capable of forming my own opinion.
And of course, Edward will start lying to her by saying, oh, you shouldn't believe everything you hear, just to make himself look innocent and that he deserved the chance to be with Augusta and that he is a better man. Augusta need to be really careful with Edward. Do you notice how Charlotte and Alexander look at each other? Like, they look at each other knowing that they're about to dance with each other and there is no way to escape. She couldn't stop looking at him. He tried not to like look at her. Like, they cannot keep their eyes off of each other, and the attraction is like so high in the scene. Ever since he arrived to the party, like the chemistry, the intensity between these two is like higher than ever before.
I wish you luck in finding a new governess.
I wish you a happy marriage.
Her tone is more confident than he is. Like, she's like, oh, good luck finding a new governor. Like, see ya, you know what I mean? And then Alexander, like, kind of like didn't want to say it. Kind of like gulp a bit. Like, you're like, I wish you a happy marriage. Like, he really didn't want to say that, but he wanted to return the same respect to her. You know, it's just like, you know, try to keep it mutual between the two.
I hope he is worthy of you.
When he said, I wish you a happy marriage, she's like, is he really happy for me? Like, wow, he had the gut to say that, you know? And then when he said, I hope he is worthy of you, that struck her heart big time. And she's like, yeah, I'm making a huge mistake. I think deep down she knows that she's making a mistake. She is not 100% happy with Ralph. A part of her, she still wants to be with Alexander, but she doesn't want to confess that. She doesn't want to say it out loud to anyone or even to herself, because that would mean that she is mentally cheating on Ralph. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't want to like cheat on Ralph in any way, shape, or form. When she thinks of Alexander, or if she say anything to him, she's trying to protect her relationship with Ralph. But on the other hand, like, if she does that, you know, and we know that she is not happy with Ralph, she making a huge mistake and she hurting herself more than Ralph, if that makes sense, you know? Like, you should do the things that make yourself happy first before making others happy, if that makes sense.
I understand you keep a fine stable, Mr. Colburn. I'm a keen equestrian myself.
From Augusta to Lady Lydia, here we go. The beginning of Alexander and Lydia. Lydia seemed very happy to be dancing with him right now. Her mom is encouraging her to get the attention of Mr. Heybourne, so this is her moment.
Then you must come riding at Herrick Park. At your convenience.
He wasn't himself. He just got off that intense moment with Charlotte, and here come Lydia, very happy, on a happier mood than he is, and she expressing her interest in horses and just introducing herself a little bit more to him, and he's just like not in the right headspace for her. But then he switched his mood and made it like a positive spin. He like invited her to his house to spend more time together and to share the interest in horses. So that's the beginning of a new love quest for Mr. Heybourne. Basically a sign that he is starting to move on from Charlotte and just, you know, see if there's any other ladies that he will like. But we all know that he will forever be in love with Charlotte. Lady Lydia doesn't know that yet. Georgiana and Lord Monroe are dancing. They seem very happy to be in each other's company. Oh, they're gonna continue their arrangement.
Stop the music!
Here comes Mr. Lockhart. I actually spoiled myself after season 2. I read an article that he is coming back for season 3, so I wasn't too surprised, but when I first watched the scene, I was like, oh, like, what? So this is a really good obstacle for Georgiana happiness in season 3. It's a good storyline to have in regard to the character of Georgiana, and we will get to see what happened next between her and Mr. Lockhart. But what a time and place, right, for him to interrupt Georgiana's happiness at her 21st birthday party.
Miss Lamb, I must speak with you alone.
Everyone is staring at him. Everyone is staring at Georgiana with him. What a evil smile that he gave to Georgiana. This is not good. This is not good. And Harry has no idea like who the guy is.
Georgiana.
Arthur is freaking out. He doesn't like the situation at all. Arthur, he respected Georgiana. He's like, okay, you deal with Lockhart, but if you need me, I'll be right here, like right in this room. What a twist. What a change of events, you know, at this party. What a way to end this first episode of season 3.
Mr. Parker? Maestro, please.
I like Harry being concerned for Georgiana as a friend, you know. He knows that this is something not good. Like, what the heck is going on with my fake girlfriend and this mystery guy that I don't know. I love how Charlotte just stormed out of the room. She's like, I am not leaving my best friend alone. This is a really interesting storyline, and I'm glad that we get this storyline because this will lead to a proper conclusion of the story between Lockhart and Georgiana.
What is the meaning of this? You were not invited. You're the last person on Earth I wish to see.
It pains me to ruin your celebration. Honestly, it does.
Charlotte to the rescue. It's really nice of Charlotte to show up. Someone that can be Georgiana's witness, but at the same time to be her support. Georgiana, she has a lot of grace for Mr. Lockhart. She could have just like kick him out and not, you know, heal him out, you know what I mean? Listening to him and giving him a chance to talk. It does show how grown up she is, even though she really doesn't like him, she hates him, you know? But she put that aside to listen to him, to why he is here at her party.
But I'm afraid what I have to give you cannot wait.
What is this?
I am hereby serving you with a writ, stating that I am the rightful heir to your father's fortune.
Georgiana knew a bit by the end of season 2 that Lockhart was trying to steal her fortune, trying to steal her chance to be the rightful heir to the fortune that her dad left for her, not Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Lockhart is competing against Georgiana to get that money from Georgiana's father. It's a lot of twists and false narratives going on here, and Lockhart is making Georgiana look like the bad person in this situation.
I suggest you find yourself a lawyer.
And now she had to show up in court and fight against Lockhart. Hopefully she wins this case. It's repeating again. It's going back into the past, and this is something that Georgiana needs to resolve once and for all, and hopefully she wins this case against Lockhart. He is not giving up. He's very ruthless, very forceful against her, and she's willing to take any chances, any opportunities to not only destroy her chance to get the money from her father, but also at the same time to destroy her reputation and her public image and the person that she is. He manipulated her, he persuaded her to fall in love with him, and it was all fake, and that really hurt her, and I'm pretty sure she still feels grudges and hatred against him in this very moment. At the end of episode 1 of season 3, we finally made it. But what a way to end the episode, right? Bang, like first episode of the season. Georgiana needs to find a lawyer. I'm not trying to be racist, but if you really think about it, like first of all, she's a woman. Second of all, she is a colored woman, and she's competing against this white man that is claiming that he should be the one, that he is related to Georgiana's father as a nephew, if I'm right, and that he should be in control of her father's money. And she's also on the hunt to find her real mom, her birth mom as well. So this is a lot of to take in for Georgiana. Not only is she trying to find her mom, now she has to deal with Mr. Lockhart once again, hopefully for the last time. Hopefully she wins the case and don't have to deal with him for the rest of her life. Also trying to find a suitable man to marry. At the moment, Harry is like the top eligible single man for her. That's another thing she is going through in season 3. She has a lot on her plate, and Lockhart is like the last thing that she wants to deal with right now at the moment. Charlotte, she is freaking out for her friend. She's like, oh my goodness, like this is really serious. Like you have to fight for yourself. We don't have Sydney anymore. So there will be a tough battle, and I cannot wait to talk about episode 2, because this storyline at the very end of episode 1 will lead to a really good storyline in episode 2. As usual, there is a playlist on my channel. It's called Sandy Trail 3, which is all the reviews of season 3. Every episode there will be 4 parts review. I will keep it the same. The scheduling of these episodes, of these reviews, are all over the place. I would go as I can between work and my personal life, but we would definitely finish season 3 by early June. So I will see you like for the next 2 months talking about this show for the last time. Any thoughts, any comments, any perspective, anything you want to say, jot them down in the comment section below. Give a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. We still have a long way to go for season 3. I'm so excited for episode 2, and I will see you soon. Bye.